Hi, everybody. Welcome to Get Paid and happy Thursday to everyone. Hey, Deb, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy Thursday. After
Yeah.
a crazy night of weather here in New York,
Oh
and
my,
a
yeah.
beautiful day.
Yeah, it's the beauty after the storm. I was in touch with my family is in Pennsylvania, very close friends in New Jersey, New York City, and so I was texting and posting last night and this morning and sending prayers. It's just very frightening, and especially not being there, not being able to see it firsthand, which no one wants to be in a storm, but
No.
it's very frightening.
Yeah, there were some places that were hit hard. Annapolis too. I have a very close friend in Annapolis, Maryland, and I saw in the news today all the destruction. And I texted her, and she's like, "We got lucky. Like we were okay, but like literally 2 streets away was just like crazy damage." So
Yeah.
craziness. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm glad to be back, though. It's good to be back. It's September, and we're off to a new start.
We are, and so we're going to do things a little differently this season. We're going to do series, right? So um, there's a lot of information that we can share, and we just want to be consistent, and so you know what you're getting ahead of time. And so this first series is the new workplace, and we're going to cover wellness and empathy and how that supports productivity.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. And we're going to have a variety of topics, and we'll kind of talk about them as we go. But we're going to start today with the topic of wellness, benefits, and perks in the workplace, because as the economy has sort of changed and shifted, it's kind of swung back to a more employee favorable condition, in that employees, it's hard to get talent now. It's getting harder and harder to retain good people, to bring good people in. And the importance of wellness to those employees is so important that it's becoming, hey, this is what we want and need to either stay at or come to your company. And it's become more of a nice to have, from a nice to have to a have to have for smart employers. So today I thought we would talk about kind of what are some of those things that the employees are asking for, and why would it be smart for good employers to think about that as they think through sort of what their perks and benefits are. So the first one is,
Can I add a caveat? Just a quick
oh yeah,
caveat.
of course, yeah.
So the caveat I want to add is when we're talking about these companies, in most cases, we're talking about companies that employ professionals. Um, Now we will do a series, and we're going to talk about companies um, that employ different groups of people. In that some of those companies, the employees are really just looking for the basics of healthcare and a living wage. So I just don't want anyone to think that we're lumping it all together, because they're two different approaches that we need to consider. So we're going to consider the professional approach.
Yeah, and even, well, this first one too, I think could apply really across the board, in that making sure that in situations where either you're returning to work as a professional or you're an essential worker in a situation, that the protocols around workplace safety are clear, are communicated, and they're held to the highest standard, so that you don't say one thing and do something else. So people want to feel like wherever their workplace is, that they're feeling safe and supported, and that you're not just saying, hey, everybody has to wear masks, and then people don't wear masks. And it becomes this really uncomfortable situation around who's sticking to protocol, who isn't. Employees want employers to be clear and strict and hold people to the workplace protocols. So that's just one element. What do you think about that?
I think that's really important. It's so interesting because basically I think, and people are still split, right? But I think it's important to have a point of view, have it based on science, and to follow through. I think that in every case, there's so many school districts now that are divided because they're like, oh, well, we're not going to mandate masks, right? And so teachers and parents are saying in situations where the students are too young to be vaccinated, then if you don't mandate masks, you've put your teacher at risk. You've done all of these things. And I think we need to consider that everywhere. So I think that first one is crucial and very, absolutely.
Yeah. And then sort of, I guess, tangential to that is the whole idea. And again, to your point, more on the professional side, but it's the whole returning to work and how to return to work.
Mm.
And employees are asking for flexibility in their work return. And that doesn't mean it's a one size fits all necessarily, or it could be, but whatever it is, they're saying, hey, we don't want to come back to the office 5 days a week like we used to. We want to be able to have flexibility and as much individual flexibility as possible, understanding that some jobs you can't work from home, but where there is opportunity to have a hybrid situation, they want employers to be open about it, to be clear about the policy, and to be supportive of employees in that situation.
And so in that situation, I think it really depends on and we talked about this earlier, it depends on the job. What is your deliverable, right? In the role that you play for that company, what is your deliverable? When we were all at home, it wasn't because we all of a sudden woke up and said, oh, we could work remotely. It was because we had pandemic lockdown. But now there's been enough time that employers have had time to really assess. And based on the deliverable for your role, there should be a very clear determination. Is it possible to do your job effectively for this company from home? Or can you do it part-time from home? Or no, you have to be in the office. Those are the determinations. But once it's determined, then we need to stick with it, right? And say, this is the role and this is the requirement. And then give people a choice. If you are qualified for that job that can work from home, then you should have the job that works from home. But I don't think all jobs are created equal. And I don't think that everyone will be, in the long run, be able to do, remote. I think it's going to be a role by role situation. But I do know that with the new Delta variant, it has really slowed down people going back to work. So many companies were preparing to go back to work in September. Here we are, September 2nd, and they're trying to figure out what's next and what's the real timing, because now with the Delta variant, and we still are not at the percentage of vaccinated adults to really create the immunity that we need. So how do you handle that situation?
Yeah, and that's a good point. I was talking about this last week on a Clubhouse discussion that I was having. Just exactly that, which a lot of these big employers are pushing it out till the beginning of 2022. And so it really is like literally a day by day decision that the employers have to make. But as of right now, the employees are asking for, listen, I want some flexibility if I can have it. And I want to have those protocols in place. So those are sort of wellness things around the workplace itself. But then there's also the wellness of, if I am, what is my work-life balance? So people have talked about work-life balance forever. I think employees now are saying, I need time for myself. And I need the company to be supportive of that. Not just to say they support work-life balance, but to put policies in place that allow me to take my time off, that allow me to turn off my phone, that allow me to step away from the job and have some time with my family. Because during this pandemic, I realized how important it is to my own health and the health of my friends and family that we have some time together. So it's become more than just sort of a saying. I think it's become now a demand. Like, what is your organization going to do to support people so they don't feel like they have to be working 24/7?
Well, I think, yes, that is very important. So I just want to say that it is important to have that. but I don't believe in the whole idea of work-life balance. I don't think there is a balance. I think there is, a shifting priorities. You have to juggle. To me, it's more of a juggle than a balance, because I don't see how it's ever going to balance out. If you consider that between sleeping and working, that is 60% of your day, of your life, right?
Yeah.
60% is there in sleep. If you sleep 7 to 8 hours a week. I mean, a day. I'm thinking of myself when I say a week. I have a problem sleeping, so I'm thinking of myself. But if you sleep 6 to 7 hours, maybe 8 a day, and then you work, and work is much more than that 9 to 5. I don't even know where that came from. The 60s, I guess. But when you think of that, you're spending at least 60% of your life working or sleeping. And so you only have 40% of your life to really for personal enjoyment. And some part of that 60%, they're daily life stresses, right? Babysitters, bills, family. We love our family, but sometimes there are issues. Maybe work because we're working from home. It's slipping into our personal time. And so the idea of a balance to me is we need to think differently about it. But it also supports, those things to me support that companies need to have more outlets during the day, right? For like a little press pause or refresher or something to help you with that juggle. Because the biggest juggle, even if, like I said, 6 to 7 hours a week was me, because a lot of my work and what I'm working on stays with me even when I'm trying to sleep. So, and I know I don't do as good of a job as I speak about in finding those press pause moments to help with the juggle. So, I think we need to move past the expectation that we're going to have a work life balance and really start to think about how do we prioritize what's important, including our careers, but we need to prioritize that on a weekly, monthly, whatever works for you. But it needs to be more of a prioritization so that you can juggle it, and balance is not really possible.
Well, and I think from an employee kind of requirement standpoint, I agree with you. I think it's what can the employers do to support kind of that juggle. And then the final thing I just want to mention is that from a benefits perspective, things have shifted as well, and sort of in the same vein of wellness, things like childcare support, office setup support, commutation, relief, if that means allowing somebody who's been spending 4 hours a day commuting, allowing them, like we said, to have some, kind of mix of their schedule, not demanding that somebody come in just, come rain or snow, or, those benefits are now risen to the top of importance for people. So I think employers just have to be aware that, it's shifted now and it's back into the talent gets to sort of drive the bus, and we'll see how things kind of progress.
Yeah, I think that's important. And we'll continue to have this discussion and check back on what's happening in the workplace with the employers and when people are going back to work and all of those things. But wellness should be front of mind for any employer who cares about their employees. So totally agree. It's great. Yeah. Great, Deb. So now that we've talked about that, we've talked about the bottom line, let's talk about our series. So I'm super excited to continue the series about the new workplace. And, so many of us came up in a time where anything that was personal, whether it was wellness, the idea of empathy just didn't even exist. And if you had issues, you put them at the door before you walked in. And the world is changing. And so in order for people to really be their full self and to deliver on their promise as an employee, they need support. And so this series is about that support that you can give between wellness and the connection with empathy and how that leads to a more productive workforce. And so next week, we're going to talk about empathy in terms of how we communicate. And so next week is about micro messaging. And I know when we were talking about that, and I've heard this so many times, hey, micro messaging, I know about microaggression, but that's it. And but microaggression is just one type of micro message. And so like the word micro message, it is there's small behaviors or innuendos or body language, small, subtle things that we all do to communicate. But they can communicate negative messaging. They can communicate positive messaging, but there's also the flip side of overuse. And there are some behaviors that lead to micro inequities that, like all things that are micro, death by thousand tiny cuts. So small messages that can lead to very large impact. So we're talking about that next week.
And sometimes I would imagine that the messenger doesn't even possibly realize that they're doing it, which is almost worse, because then it just continues on and it's completely unaware. So I think if we can shed some light on that topic, because I definitely know what microaggressions are, but I never heard the term micromessaging, and I would be interested to understand. And I think for some people that will help kind of bring some awareness to that topic. And if you are doing it, maybe you'll see that in yourself.
That's right. So do you want to take us home?
Okay. Well, I think, it's been a good discussion. It's nice to see employees having some voice in the workplace. And I love the topic of wellness and empathy. So I'm glad we're going to do this series. Everyone have a great day, a good weekend. It's Labor Day weekend. I can't believe it. So be safe and enjoy yourself. And hopefully, some of this bad weather has passed us by.
Yes. Sending prayers for everyone who's been affected by Ida. Please stay safe.